Hi, hello and welcome to Reluctant Mongoose, my little corner of the internet designed to help keep me accountable for being creative and to hopefully encourage you to be creative too. We have come to that time of year that is not my favourite, but it's that time of year when people start saying the C word. Ends with C, ends in S, and there's basically a lot of decorations and stuff around. You'll have probably seen loads of advent calendar type videos around, and that's what people have been doing. Today I need to make a wreath for my mum because she saw the one that I made for myself last year and she was like, oh, can you make me one? So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to be making a Christmas wreath for my mum and hopefully giving you some tips on how to do it better, because I learned quite a lot from doing that first one, and I think this one I did it a lot more. Yeah, it'll be a lot quicker doing it this second time around. I do need to make one for my sister as well, but she wants one with all of like the, you know, the tacky bits that come in Christmas crackers and like the little plastic things. She wants one with all the Christmas tat on it, and I have no Christmas tat at the moment, so she's gonna have to wait. Gonna have to wait until I've got the tat to go on the tacky one that she wants. So without further ado, let's get on with that. These are all of our supplies that we're going to use today. We've got some green twigs with snow on, some white twigs, some green baubles, some pipe cleaners, some glue, some ribbon and some lights, as well as the wreath frame. Ideally with the wreath frame you could just use one of those wire coat hangers and sort of rebend it, because then you've also got the hook, but I don't have any of those, so I bought some wreath frames. And so the first thing we're going to do, something I learned from last year, is that we're going to hot glue the baubles onto the caps so that they don't come popping off in the wind or rain outside. Last year when I had my wreath outside, I kept coming outside to find random baubles decorating my path, and that was because they kept popping out of the caps. So that's something I learned from last year: hot gluing the baubles into the caps so they don't go popping off, flying off everywhere. I have got a pretty pink glue gun, but I couldn't find it for this, so I'm using my fiance's glue gun, which I think was a middle of Lidl special. Cost all of about £3, so cost and quality really don't matter with these. And as you could see probably before, a lot of these baubles that I've got came damaged. That won't matter for what we're doing today. You don't notice it. If you know they're there, then obviously you know they're there, but it really won't matter because they'll all be squished up against the fake tree branches and white glittery things. So the worst of the damage should hopefully be hidden. Now, I didn't do this, like I say, I didn't do this step last year and they all came popping off. What I also found last year, I had some little pink twiggy bits sticking out of the wreath, and what I think happened to one of them, because all of a sudden one disappeared one day, I think a bird came down and pulled it out of the wreath and then put it into their nest. Couldn't find it on the ground anywhere, and it was one that was loose anyway. So I do like to think of this bird having this random glittery pink twig in their nest amongst all of their own greenery. Just makes me chuckle thinking that somewhere in our neighbourhood we've got a very flamboyant bird with a nice glittery pink bit of nest. Now, this whole process of gluing the caps onto the baubles that we're doing here only took about 10 minutes. I thought it was going to take forever, but it took 10 minutes. But I did end up with glitter all over my hands. And once you have glitter on your hands, it's going to be there for the next 3 years. So if you're a glitterphobe, maybe wear gloves for this part. Or to be fair, wear gloves for the whole of it, because if you've got glitter anywhere, it's going to go everywhere. The next thing we're going to do is try and get into this packet of pipe cleaners, which apparently I struggled with. I don't understand why, but here we go. There, finally got into it. We're going to string these baubles onto pipe cleaners. Now, again, last year I did one pipe cleaner per bauble and tied them all onto the wreath individually, and then ended up hot gluing the baubles to each other to get them to sort of look randomised and stay where I wanted them. This method is a lot easier. I strung 3 baubles onto each pipe cleaner and then twisted the pipe cleaner because it's super easy to twist. and I was able to randomise them in my own little way to make sure there weren't any clusters of all plain green and all plain glitter. Is plain glitter even a thing? Plain glitter can't be a thing, because glitter's glitter and no, not, you know what I mean. It also meant that there were all different sizes in each cluster as well, so I didn't have to worry too much about that when actually placing them onto the wreath itself. What I also hadn't noticed is I started off doing this process off screen, which was super helpful of me. I did eventually realise that where I was recording and where I should be filming, and that my arms were in the wrong place, and eventually got it to where it should be. This is one of the things they don't tell you when you start doing these sorts of videos, is all of the time you spend making sure you get your angles right and your camera in the right place and all the focusing to happen, and so many stars need to align and it needs to happen on the second Tuesday of every month and all the rest of it. Well, maybe not that last bit, it just feels that way sometimes. As we're getting towards the end of stringing these together, I did end up with 2 bunches of 2, but that doesn't matter because, again, it adds to the randomness or lack of randomness. And don't worry about me picking up the scissors randomly. I was poking holes in the bits of glue that were left on the bauble caps. Next step is to grab your bits and pieces and to kind of place it on the frame where you think you might like it. So it gives yourself an idea of how you're actually going to build the wreath itself. I did this with 5 bits of green things and 5 bits of white twiggy glittery bits, and then popped the baubles on top. Once you've spent some time guessing how you want it to look, you then have to go in with the tedious process of actually building it. I started off trying to do this without using my pliers. I realise now that even though I did eventually go and get my pliers, as you'll see in a second, I got my all-in-one, it does everything kind of multi-tool pliers. I had bought in my metal toolbox, which has all types of different pliers in it, and the reason I didn't use those was because I thought it was in the shed. I'm sitting here looking at it. It's not in the shed. Anywho, these did the job, for insofar as the job that I needed them to do. I ended up using a combination of both the pliers and my fingers because I'm very hands-on when it comes to this sort of thing, and I don't always like using tools. My fingers can get a bit more into all the small gaps and crevices and all the fine detail work. Not that there's a lot of fine detail when it comes to creating a wreath, it's all quite big and bulky. Now, other ways I've seen people do this is to use a big round thing of that green foamy stuff that florists use. I do know what it's called, but I can't remember it for the life of me off the top of my head. I do believe that's probably a more costly and more expensive option, but if that's the way you want to do it, then you go off and investigate that yourself. I decided ultimately that the one lot of branches and twigs weren't going to be full enough, so once I got this first lot of baubles twisted on, I went in and put another set of branches and twigs onto the frame as well. What I probably should have done is waited until I got all of the branches and twigs on to put the baubles on, because I ended up creating more work for myself. But what is life without making more work for yourself, especially if you're me? Take a moment, see how it looks, and then see how you want to go. Moment of appreciation for the overstimulated t-shirt. That was a birthday present from my fiance. It says a lot. And then back into the business that we're working on. Now, with the magic of editing, this video is only about 16 minutes long, but end to end, this wreath took about 90 minutes to make. That is, however, a massive improvement over the one that I made last year, which was sat on my dining room table for about 2 weeks with me working on it every evening for that length of time. My ME was, however, a lot worse this time last year, so I had to take a lot more breaks and I was a lot slower at it. Creating these voiceovers for these videos is a lot more work than I ever thought it would be. I end up talking about everything that I wanted to talk about in the first 5 minutes and then forget that I've got another 10 minutes to fill with nonsense. And I might get to a point where I'm confident enough to do that. But for now, I'm going to keep voicing them over because I don't want slapped with copyright and the video taken down, because I'm not at the right amount of followers yet. I have to be really careful about the copyright stuff. I just had to take you off the frame just to show you how messy this stuff is. It's like I have a dusting of snow all over my workspace and on my lap and the dog. You just want fussies. You want fussies and attention. is annoyed because Mummy isn't playing with him and she's making stuff instead of playing. Yes, well, this is what Mummy likes to do, you see. We've already had playtime. Went and chucked a ball around for just over a mile at lunchtime, didn't we? Yes. Anyway, yeah, sidetracked. This stuff is messy, so if you're a neat freak, probably best not to get the stuff with the snow on. Second to last step we've got here is adding lights to the wreath. I had bought some warm white lights, but the warm white lights were about 15 metres long and were not fit for purpose. I bought some cool white lights because actually that's more my mum's aesthetic and she prefers that, so this worked out better in the end anyway. You sort of wrap them and weave them in and around and about the wreath just to wherever they look and sit right. This is also why we haven't gone around the back and tidied up all of the loose ends on the pipe cleaners yet, because those will be used to help use hold the battery pack and the loose bits of wire from the lights on the back in place so that things don't go falling off everywhere. And that's what you can see me doing now. I am trying to tidy up the pipe cleaners and loose bits of sticky out wire just so that there's no hazards. It's difficult to do with my hands so shaky as they are at the moment. Sometimes I get shaky hands just through the ME/CFS being the ME/CFS and fatigue setting in. The next thing is we hot glue the battery pack onto the frame so it doesn't go anywhere. I will then use the pipe cleaners near that to just hold it kind of in place, even though it shouldn't fall off with hot glue there. And it just sort of sits nicely. We check all around it and then we put some more hot glue wherever we can find gaps to put it, just to be absolutely certain it's not going to fall off. Mostly because this is going to somebody else and it's not mine. If it wasn't going to somebody else, I probably wouldn't have gone to all that effort. Important step, do make sure you unplug your hot glue gun and don't go touching it like I do, because hot glue guns burn. Last step, you can either wrap the pipe cleaners around the wire frame or you can chop them off with a pair of scissors, because they will easily chop off with a pair of scissors. Time for the very last step, finishing this off with a bow. I have some wire edged ribbon that I've cut 2 lengths of, and I'm not tying it in a bow, I'm just shaping it into a bow, because ain't nobody got time to be fannying around with all those bow tutorials and stuff. I'm not very good at it, so just because it's got the wire edges, it will hold a bow shape and you can make it look like a bow. And then we've unplugged the glue gun. We're going to plug it back in because I forgot I needed to glue the bow on, because this is what happens when you're me. You forget things left, right and centre. If you are a child watching this, do get a parent to help you with the hot glue gun. Make them burn their fingers. Don't burn your own fingers. It's not fun having burnt fingers from hot glue. And that's it, finished. We're going to do some nice beauty shots over the door next. Now look at that. Isn't that pretty? All that close up of the baubles, and you can't tell that there's loads of issues with the quality of the baubles. It just looks pretty, and even the fake snow having fallen off the branches just gives the plain green baubles a nice little dusting and looks a bit more festive and seasonal. And there we have it. I am so impressed with how much quicker and easier that was. It wasn't by any means a clean and tidy and neat project, but who am I if I'm not making a mess? I make a mess regardless of what I do. I can make a mess with just a pencil and a piece of paper. I'd still end up with something on me. That's just who I am. I do hope you give it a go yourself. The stuff is really easy to come by, and it is surprisingly easy to put together these things yourself. I mean, you saw even with the state of the baubles that I had, it didn't matter to the overall finish of the wreath. So do give it a go. Let me know if you like tutorials from me, because I have a tendency to just sort of wing it and give these things a go without looking at what I'm doing and sort of really thinking about it. I've already said I flit about from one project to the next project, and there's not an awful lot of similarity between projects, so you might see a lot of this let's go in and have a go and see what happens type thing from me. I'm hoping that the next set of videos that you see from me are going to be based around the Pott'd Advent calendar, but I ordered that on the 17th of September. I am filming this mid to late November and it is still not turned up yet. It was supposed to have been dispatched last week. I've still not seen any sign of it. I've emailed them about it and I've had no response yet. So really low quality budget editing Lil here. I have now had a response from Pott'd by email, and they're saying that this calendar should be dispatched next week, which by the time this is going out on YouTube will be last week. Hopefully that's the case, but I do now have a backup project on standby in case that doesn't happen. And I've also seen Chloe Rose Art post a video reviewing that calendar. All I caught of that video was, yeah, I swear to God if this is another ribbon, and I decided not to watch it because I want to be surprised either pleasantly or otherwise by what I see and what I open myself. I'm hoping it does turn up in good time because otherwise it's pointless me having spent that money. And I'll be complaining to the company. But that is a story for the next video, hopefully, if it turns up. If it doesn't, we'll have to think of a backup plan. But for now, thank you very much for watching and have a great week. Bye.